1. Min AGO, Meek Mill and Will Smith. Arrested after FBI received video of former Will Smith assistant breaking court proceedings against Will Smith and Meek Mill launched this morning. The media called it routine, but no one predicted what would follow. Just hours into testimony, former aide Brother Bilal stepped into the witness box, shaking eyes locked forward, and what he said cracked Hollywood's mask wide open. A thunderclap echoed across social media feeds and courthouse steps alike. In the blink of a scroll, the world shifted. An unsealed federal indictment named two titans of American entertainment, Will Smith and Meek Mill, as parties of interest in an ongoing investigation into coercive sex acts, financial cover-ups, and a clandestine network of A-list debauchery. The origin point, the arrest of Sean Diddy Combs. But the blast radius. It now included the Fresh Prince himself. Court records confirmed it, a sealed chamber, restricted access, cameras banned. Inside, a federal judge signed arrest warrants as gasps slipped through the courtroom like wind through cracked stained glass. Outside, the world knew nothing, not yet. Within the hour, private aircraft associated with Harpo Holdings and Roc Nation charted emergency takeoffs from Van Nuys and Teterboro, headed for airstrips in Zurich and Dubai. The names on the manifest sealed. But speculation leaked faster than fuel on the tarmac. Something's happening. Will's name is trending, but it's not a movie drop. Meek just canceled his entire European leg. No explanation. Whispers became roars. Meanwhile, across TikTok and Reddit, theories coagulated. Users with handles like Insider Uncut and Court Leaks Only began compiling a digital breadcrumb trail. Cryptic filings, last-minute court sealings, audio leaks of muted depositions. One clip featured a distorted voice identifying Meek Mill as present and active during events held at Diddy's now notorious Star Island estate. Another showed a man's face, pixelated body trembling. He claimed he was coerced into filming encounters involving multiple male celebrities. It wasn't a party, he said. It was a script, and I didn't audition for this. At the epicenter of the tremors stood Brother Bilal, formerly Will Smith's personal aide, now the government's prime cooperating witness. His affidavit was incendiary, a 38-page document, with timelines, coded flight logs, encrypted texts, and most damningly, a video archive, cataloged by date, location, and participant. According to Bilal, a hidden camera was placed during a 2015 gathering at a luxury condo in Beverly Hills. The footage, he claimed, showed Will Smith and actor Dwayne Martin engaged in non-consensual acts under coercive circumstances, with Diddy present as both host and instigator. The environment was curated, the doors locked, the power dynamic unmistakable. The DOJ called it a corporate-class predator circuit. Bilal, flanked by federal marshals and wearing a Kevlar vest, was ushered into the courtroom through a side entrance. No press was allowed, no public gallery, just judge, counsel, defendants, and the weight of a decade's silence beginning to rupture. Will Smith's legal team pushed back immediately. Fabricated. Fantastical. Vicious, one attorney barked, slamming a folder on the table. But inside that folder was an email, time-stamped and authenticated by Homeland Security's Cyber Forensics Division. The subject line read, "Silence secured. Zurich transfer confirmed." Attached a receipt of a $3.2 million transaction linked to an offshore media vault. The prosecution's opening salvo wasn't a question. It was a declaration: the footage exists, and so do the survivors. Meek Mill's attorney appeared less confident, opting instead to request a gag order and immediate venue change. "My client is a public figure," she insisted, "not a public target." But it was too late. Screens lit up across the nation, leaked stills, sliced audio, #firestorms, downfall Ovidals, Brother Bilal speaks, justice in silence. And among it all, a single headline thundered louder than the rest: Will Smith named in federal sexual coercion probe. The fall had begun. Not of a man, nor of a brand, but of a belief that the halo always hides the horns. The doors to courtroom 6B were shut tight. Outside, reporters scrolled through burner phones and message boards searching for anything, a whisper, a clue, a name. Inside, silence clung to the wood-paneled walls like static. A federal judge looked down over the bench, and the nation's most infamous name of the week stepped forward. Brother Bilal, wearing a gray suit too stiff for comfort and a Kevlar vest too real to ignore. Bilal adjusted the mic and cleared his throat. The courtroom, sealed to the press but vibrating with tension, braced itself. The lights dimmed. A screen descended. A clip cued. "This was taken March 18, 2015, Bilal said, voice measured. Beverly Hills. The suite was reserved under an alias. The footage was never meant to see daylight. The screen flickered to life. Fuzzy at first, then clear. A dimly lit hotel suite. Curtains drawn tight. Music faint and warped like a half-forgotten dream. The camera hidden angles, low-fix surgical. On screen, a figure unmistakable, Will Smith shirtless. Next to him, Dwayne Martin. Across the suite, lounging with a glass of something amber Diddy. Then came the scene. Water, steam, a portable tub, and Will, stepping in not of his own volition. The footage showed something far from consensual. Words weren't clear, but postures spoke. Shoulders hunched, eyelines averted. One voice audible. Diddy's low amused, "This is legacy, baby. Ain't no shame in ritual," gasp. In court, the room stiffened. Even the stenographer hesitated. On screen, the ritual unfolded. Diddy lifting a ladle, pouring murky water from a previously used basin. Its origins implied not shown, over Will's back. Will flinched. Martin laughed. No one else did. Bilal clicked pause. "That's just the beginning," he said, voice faltering. Over the next hour, the courtroom bore witness to a horror reel disguised as nightlife. Clips layered with coded interactions, masked coercion, silent compliance. No screaming, but everything screamed wrong. The playback system was muted. Audio files were later confirmed encrypted. Only the court heard the real tapes. But even stripped of sound, the implications roared. One file had Diddy gesturing at Meek Mill off camera. "Next rotation," he mouthed. The crowd around him laughed, but the faces, some pixelated, others not, shifted from indulgence to inertia. They weren't there for pleasure. They were there because they'd been summoned. Judge Morrison recessed early. In the hallway, staff whispered the same 3 words. It really happened. Outside the courthouse, TikTok exploded. A court sketch of Bilal stoic sweat lining his brow went viral. Reddit threads tore apart timestamps, cross-referencing every celebrity travel log with known events. Users shared theories, but more than that, they shared outrage. Comments flooded, "I feel sick. This was never about tabloids. It's about trauma." Free Bilal trending. Hero or hoax clips of Diddy toasting on yachts began to circulate beside freeze frames of the courtroom footage. The juxtaposition hit like a punch. Meanwhile, reporters staked out the Beverly Wilshire, where the infamous suite was located. A maintenance worker confirmed under anonymity they always brought their own equipment, lights, cameras, asked for blackout drapes. Someone posted a hotel invoice. Alias used W West. As the day unfolded, 2 platforms froze searches for Will Smith bath footage. Too late. Dozens of uploads across Telegram and overseas message boards carried segments of the video. Pixelated, edited, often cut, but real enough. Real enough to light a fire. CNN's 8 p.m. slot was overridden. Piers Morgan tweeted, "Now will they let me air the rest at Harpo Studios, security increased." Oprah's name, once peripheral, was now being hashtagged beside Meek's. But the loudest reaction came from those who watched in silence. Dozens of support groups posted statements of solidarity. Trauma counselors went live. Survivor helplines surged. "This is what systemic coercion looks like," one therapist said on livestream. grooming isn't always about children. Sometimes it's adults who have no way to say no. A former party planner from Los Angeles spoke anonymously. These weren't parties. They were rites. They had scripts, rehearsals, roles. Brother Bilal exited the courthouse to a hush. No cheers, no reporters screaming questions, just silence. The kind that follows an earthquake. And then the aftershocks began. The courtroom was silent oxygen, thick like soup. The only sound, the scrape of a chair, the low hum of the microphone activating as Brother Bilal took the stand. He wasn't in a suit. He wore a charcoal gray windbreaker over a faded t-shirt. Not a disguise, just the uniform of a man who had stopped caring what anyone thought. His face was calm, but his hands trembled. "State your name for the record." "Bilal Joseph Carter." "And your relation to Mr. Smith?" He paused. "Former aide, advisor. Cleaner, some might say." The crowd, what little of it was allowed, shifted. The judge leaned forward. "Proceed." Bilal's testimony unfolded, not like a story, but like a wound being reopened. He described a pattern of orchestrated control, invitations labeled as charity galas or spiritual retreats events that would culminate in secluded estates, confiscated phones, spiked champagne. The names never changed. Just the city. Then came the tape. Cassie was brought in next. No cameras. Only sketches and scribes. Her voice, barely above a whisper, added flesh to Bilal's skeleton of facts. She confirmed the code names used during events, the silencing payments, the disappearance of dissenters. "They had a phrase," she said. "If it's on tape, it's safe. If it's not, it never happened." From the bench, the prosecution played a segment of a clip from the sealed vault. A large screen flickered to life. Grainy, flickering hotel surveillance. Diddy's suite in Manhattan. A voice masked by digital distortion could be heard directing people into different rooms. Meek Mill was seen entering one of them shirtless, followed by two men and a handler. The moment the distorted playback ended, there was silence. Total, airless silence. A wave of something too heavy for breath passed through the room. The defense erupted. "Your Honor, this is prejudicial." "This is unverifiable, and sit down," the judge said without looking. Brother Bilal broke the silence. He reached into his pocket and placed a flash drive on the table. "It's not the only tape," he said. Gasps. Audible, uncontrollable. The court clerk moved slowly, like approaching a live grenade. "This drive," Bilal continued, "contains footage of a 2016 event in Aspen. That's the one where Dwayne Martin and Will were—" He swallowed. "Where I was told to film, where I was told if I ever spoke, my family would be relocated permanently." The judge raised her hand. "Mr. Carter, we will recess before entering any further evidence." Bilal stood down. His eyes didn't flinch. Back in chambers, leaks had already begun to pulse through the walls of the courthouse. Someone in the stenographer's room had passed a clip to a friend. That friend passed it to a Reddit mod. By the time the judge ordered silence, TikTok was already boiling. Clips of reactions, not the tape, circulated like wildfire. Hashtags sprouted like weeds. Cassie, nose Meek revealed. Bilal unbound. Evening news anchors, once hesitant, now echoed the trial's language. Coercion, suppression, systemic manipulation. As the court reconvened, Meek Mill's lawyer demanded a complete evidence review delay. Will Smith's team, noticeably shaken, whispered more than they spoke. Cassie, returning to the stand, glanced briefly at Bilal. There was no alliance, only understanding. A mutual scar. "They asked us to smile," she said, "while filming our silence." The prosecution rested its case for the day. No victory speeches. Just a still courtroom where even the bailiff looked pale. Outside, protesters gathered. They didn't chant. They stood in silent witness. Signs read, "Stars fall hardest when they hide the sun. Don't film justice, deliver it." Day 3 of the trial had not yet ended, but its impact had already begun reshaping the world outside. While the courtroom pulsed with revelation and reckoning, The upper echelons of Hollywood remained motionless. Beyoncé, Spielberg, Tyler Perry, Ellen, Jay-Z, their names so often leading headlines now conspicuously absent from any discussion. No tweets, no interviews, no subtle gestures of support or condemnation. The silence was a statement. The world was watching, and the A-list stood still. Will Smith, once the paragon of charisma and box office power, issued a terse, carefully worded press release through his publicist. Mr. Smith unequivocally denies the disturbing and defamatory allegations made in court. Any insinuation of criminal conduct is false. No video statement, no appearance, just a signature at the bottom of a PDF. Meek Mill, in contrast, took to Instagram Live. For 3 minutes, he fumbled with words, shifting between defensive laughter and visible tension. "Man, they got it twisted," he said, eyes darting off camera. "People be trying to drag you into things 'cause they bitter. Diddy parties, I ain't never seen nothing wild." The comment section exploded. "So you're saying nothing happened? Cameras don't lie. Check your reflection, Meek. We see the sweat." Memes flooded in. Meek, with cartoon sweat pouring down his face. Will Smith photoshopped into courtroom sketches whispering, "It was just one night." Reddit went surgical. In the thread, r/unmasked Hollywood users began a forensic dissection of old talk show appearances, past interviews, award speeches. One user posted a 2016 clip of Will thanking Diddy for always hosting the most unforgettable getaways, with a caption that read, "Yeah, we bet." Twitter X, formerly Twitter, became a war zone. Hashtags like willful silence and meek denial skyrocketed. One post retweeted 90,000 times read, "They had the stage, they had the voice, and they chose to whisper." Meanwhile, journalists sought answers. PR teams deflected. Entertainment Tonight reached out to Steven Spielberg's rep. No comment. Variety contacted Gayle King. No response. The View prepared a segment. Last minute, it was pulled from air. Behind closed doors, Hollywood insiders confessed to a deeper fear the dominoes were still falling. "No one wants to be the next name," an agent told Rolling Stone off record. "We don't know where the tapes end." One figure broke ranks. Jada Pinkett Smith, estranged but legally tethered to Will, posted a single cryptic message on Threads. "The truth comes dressed in silence before it speaks with thunder." That was all, but it echoed. Across TikTok, duets and reaction videos dissected every word. Creators speculated on whether she was protecting herself, hinting at complicity or lighting the fuse. Even Oprah, embroiled in a separate scandal, became a ghost of former influence. Her silence was deafening. Public opinion fractured. A poll on CNN showed 58% believed Will and Meek were hiding something. 22% weren't sure. Only 20% offered benefit of the doubt. YouTube exploded with think pieces. Hollywood has a secrecy problem. Why the rich protect each other. When fame becomes a firewall against truth. TikTok creators simulated court transcripts. One viral series, Justice Junkie, used AI voice to recreate the testimony and reactions. In one clip, the AI Will stammered through denial, while a background track played The Sound of Silence. Comments read, "Oscar for Best Acting Will in Real Life. I used to defend these people, never again. They are quiet because their hands are dirty." Meanwhile, international media picked up the silence. BBC questioned American celebrity culture's reluctance to self-police. Al Jazeera aired a panel titled "Power, Silence, and the Fall of American Idols." Back in the U.S., protest signs outside the courthouse evolved. Now they read, "Where are your heroes now?" The silent endorsed the guilty. No more scripts, only truth. The cultural earthquake spread into classroom sermons, podcasts. One theology professor commented on NPR, "When the prophets of culture are struck mute, perhaps it is time for the people to become the chorus." Still Meek tweeted once more, "I don't owe y'all nothing but music. Stop digging for dirt." The replies came swiftly. "We dug, We found more than dirt. Then bury yourself in your lyrics. We want truth. Will's team remained on radio silence. No new statements, no scheduled appearances, just growing absence. Hollywood events began seeing record cancellations. The BET Awards postponed its red carpet. The Emmys released a statement of solidarity with survivors without naming names. When silence becomes strategy, it becomes a scream. The silence wasn't peace. It was panic in slow motion. And the world was no longer willing to wait for a script. By day 4, the courtroom no longer smelled of furniture polish and fear. It reeked of strategy. Legal maneuvers slithered across the floor like vipers. And at the center of the coiled tension stood the defense teams of Will Smith and Meek Mill. They filed motions fast, furious, and on fire. The crux that the video and audio evidence being admitted was unlawfully obtained, digitally manipulated, and contextually corrupted. In short, they wanted it out. Will's lawyer, in a polished Navy three-piece suit, declared, "We're looking at deepfake territory here. The metadata is inconclusive. The origin of the footage is compromised. And, until provenance is verified, this material must not see the light of day." Meek Mill's legal team leaned into another strategy deflection, by saturation. They proposed a counter-investigation into the chain of custody for all evidence submitted, naming Bilal's flash drive, a potential plant. "We must ensure," one attorney barked, "that we are not becoming complicit in a narrative driven by viral misinformation rather than verified jurisprudence." But the government wasn't blinking. FBI agents arrived that morning with 2 more unmarked briefcases. These weren't props. They contained audio extracted from sealed surveillance archives, linked to the Diddy vault, now under federal lock. The Department of Justice had classified the contents as extremely sensitive, with one prosecutor emphasizing these files, if leaked, could compromise witness safety and ongoing investigations. That's when the courtroom changed. No phones, no sketch artists. The judge signed a gag order barring live reporting. Screens were erected to shield specific sections from public view. The court's Wi-Fi was disabled, and a warning was issued any leak would be prosecuted under the Espionage Act. Inside the chamber, only a select group of DOJ operatives, the judge and lead counsels, heard the full audio. What they heard, no one would describe fully. But when they emerged hours later, 3 defense attorneys looked paler than the courtroom marble. One dropped out of the case within 48 hours. The press called it the sound no one will repeat. Meanwhile, the outside world screamed in pixelated rage. Hashtags surged. "Let the people hear. Transparent justice, no more sealed sin." A TikTok creator with 2 million followers lip-synced a fictional reenactment of the sealed audio based on courtroom body language. It garnered 7 million views in a day. "You can't silence the internet," she wrote. "We know what terror looks like. We saw it on their faces." Reddit mods created encrypted servers to catalog each leak, analyzing tone, expression, and timing of every known playback moment. The subreddit AR Justice Unfiltered swelled to 900,000 members in 3 days. And then came the movement. Transparent Justice. It began as a viral hashtag, became a change.org petition, then a full-blown protest. Thousands gathered outside federal buildings in D.C., Chicago, and L.A., demanding unredacted footage, full transparency, and an end to sealed celebrity courtrooms. Placards read, "Democracy dies in Diddy's vault. If they hide it, it happened. No more secrets and suits." The White House press secretary was asked directly if the president supported transparent justice. Her reply, "We support accountability and the rule of law. No one is above scrutiny." Yet the system held firm. Courtroom 8B became an impenetrable vault. The audio stayed in. The footage stayed buried. The files were sealed. But the storm was already on the streets. Paparazzi were chased out of hospitals and bars redirected to courthouses. Tech companies denied scrubbing leaks, then did so anyway. Streaming platforms pulled old interviews. Talk show hosts canceled upcoming legacy tributes. Nothing was said. Everything changed. Because when truth is taped up and hidden away, society does what it always does. It tears the tape off itself. The courthouse was silent as the clock struck 10 a.m. Jurors filed in. Cameras were still banned, but the world watched through courtroom sketches, bootleg transcripts, and eyes red from sleepless anticipation. The verdict came swiftly. Not guilty on the primary charge of conspiracy due to insufficient hard linkage between Will Smith and the network's command structure. The room didn't erupt, it imploded, but guilty on the count of witness obstruction, guilty on intentional suppression of digital evidence. The judge's ruling 18-month suspended sentence for Will Smith probation with digital activity monitoring and community restitution, including mandatory speaking engagements on abuse of power and misuse of fame. Meek Mill, cited as material witness and adjacent actor, was sentenced to 6 months of home confinement, pending further proceedings. Both sentences triggered appeals instantly, but the sentence wasn't what changed the world. It was the backlash. Justice for survivors exploded across every platform within hours. Cassie's earlier silent image, one hand raised in court mouth, closed eyes unblinking, became an emblem. Profile pictures changed to grayscale ribbons. Public marches flooded downtown Chicago and Times Square. Survivors and advocates held vigils chanting, "Say their names, show the tapes." In LA, a group of former Harpo interns held a press conference calling out not just individuals, but structures. This isn't about monsters, it's about systems that keep them fed. Streaming services began quietly pulling back. Netflix suspended a Meek Mill documentary. Apple TV Plus put Will Smith's upcoming project on indefinite hold. Sponsorships evaporated. PR agencies cut ties. Meek's label issued a tepid statement, awaiting full resolution. But the internet was done waiting. Citizen sleuths uncovered sealed court files, encrypted metadata payments made via offshore accounts. A new subreddit, r exposed by silence, surged to 1.5 million members within a week. Then came the universities. Multiple institutions rescinded honorary degrees given to Will. One music school removed Meek from its mentorship board. Alumni issued open letters echoing the same demand: transparency must be written into law. The push snowballed into political spheres. 3 members of Congress co-sponsored the Survivor Accountability Act, requiring full declassification of court evidence related to abuse and coercion if not classified for national security. The bill gained bipartisan traction, driven not by politics but by fury. As for Will, he returned to his compound in Calabasas under media blackout. Neighbors reported seeing the house staff changed, spotlights removed. Security increased. Meek Mill went silent on all platforms, for weeks, until a blurry selfie surfaced a dim-lit recording booth. No caption. Speculation split into 2 camps, redemption or defiance. But for the survivors, for the public, for a fractured industry, none of it mattered. What mattered was this: a cultural reckoning had crossed a threshold. The old guard of unaccountable fame was crumbling. Journalists found funding again for real investigations. Legislators heard chants louder than lobbyists. And young people, especially young survivors, began believing again in something they hadn't dared hope for. That silence can end. That truth, however, bruised, survives. And that power once sacred is now subject to audit. This wasn't the ending, it was the beginning of never again. Because Hollywood never forgets, but now neither do we.